For the better part of the last 2 decades, Emirates has been one of the most influential airlines on the planet, with a business model centered around the geographic advantage of Dubai, a city on the crossroads of West and East. A business model so successful that it turned a mere desert port town into one of the most famous cities in the world. A model so successful that other Gulf airlines have copied the design. But with all this success has come an Achilles heel, a weakness that couldn't be more exposed than it is today, all because of the very strength that first put Emirates on the map, the very strength that is now its greatest flaw, the airline's geographic location. Unless you've been living under a rock for the past month, you've probably heard about the news coming out of the Middle East. Yes, surprisingly, war has broken out in the region once again, and this time it couldn't be more detrimental to the Gulf airlines whose routes run straight through the current crossfire. Emirates, Qatar, Etihad, and several other Gulf airlines were forced to cancel flights when the first shots were fired, with the airports of Dubai, Doha, and Abu Dhabi caught in the midst of multiple drone strikes. Now, as of today, Emirates and the other Gulf airlines are back in the skies, but in a rather limited fashion, and forced to fly extremely inefficient routes in order to avoid the airspace closures. And it doesn't take a genius to understand why this is extremely detrimental to an airline like Emirates, with a business model completely centered around the UAE as a stopover point between West and East. On the economical side of things, this conflict has proven incredibly damaging. With airliners being forced to fly longer routes to avoid airspace closures, more fuel has to be loaded on every flight, which equates to a heavier airplane. And obviously, with maximum takeoff weight requirements, if the fuel tanks are filled to the brim, the flight will be forced to take off with either less cargo or less passengers, both options generating negative profit. Not to mention the hours of extra fuel burn from flying longer routes. Jet fuel costs enough on its own, and with today's surging prices for motor vehicles, you can probably make a good guess as to how expensive jet fuel prices have gotten. All of these contributors have led to severe economic losses for Emirates recently, but regardless of that, this new conflict in the Middle East hasn't only served as a major disruption to the airline's operations themselves, but also as a massive eye-opener to the fragility of the Emirates business model as a whole. With the sheer influence that Emirates has held over the airline industry for the last 2 decades, it can be hard to see the carrier as anything other than a success. But there's one major difference between Emirates and the other airlines of the world that gets constantly overlooked, and ultimately has become one of the key factors in the airline's recent downward trends following this war. It's the fact that Emirates, while being the mega airline that it is, doesn't have a single domestic flight. The backbone of Emirates operations rely on constant international demand through sectors such as tourism and layovers in Dubai. And with this demand being heavily disrupted, the airline doesn't have the ability to rely on a domestic market like the other major airlines of the world. And that's the piece of the puzzle that Emirates is missing. With numerous international connections now blocked off or serviced infrequently, along with layovers in Dubai now becoming more of an inconvenience for passengers than anything else, the airline that was once on top of the world is now slowly sinking, with its business model completely exposed by the conflict. Obviously, these same issues also apply to carriers like Qatar and Etihad, as all of these Middle East mega airlines essentially run the exact same hub-and-spoke design through the Gulf region. With the fragile tensions that exist in the Middle East, the valuable airspace in the region is under a near-constant threat, only highlighting the sheer vulnerability that all these Gulf airlines operate under. This vulnerability has become so evident that the consequences these airlines are currently facing were almost predictable, as if a major economic downfall of the Gulf airlines was inevitable due to the region's political instability, a collapse that was only a matter of time. On the surface level, relying solely on the geographic advantage of the Gulf region is an excellent idea, hence why so many airlines copied the design that Emirates carefully curated over the decades. In retrospect though, it's a business model that evidently can be easily disrupted. But looking past the war's effects on the airline industry itself, it's the passengers who regularly fly these carriers that are among the most affected by the conflict. It was the airline empires in the Middle East, through their hub-and-spoke design, that opened the doors for mass immigration into Western countries, completely changing the fabric of the way we live, with family, business, and cultural ties now spanning continents, something that wasn't nearly as prevalent 20 years ago as it is today, largely in part due to the connectability and affordable fares that these airlines offered. However, with the ability to fly between these regions now severed by high prices and inconvenient flight times, these new ties between continents have been forcibly disrupted. Right now, more than ever, an alternative to Emirates, Qatar, and Etihad is greatly needed to serve the millions of people disrupted by the conflict, and a realistic replacement may lie on the crossroads of Europe and Asia in Istanbul, with Turkish Airlines' extensive network to over 130 countries. Like the Persian Gulf region, Istanbul Airport is also strategically located in between east and west, and far enough north so as to not be nearly as affected by airspace closures. In the wake of this conflict, flying with Turkish has ultimately become a much more convenient option for passengers, with more affordable fares, more convenient routes, and flight times. Should this conflict in Southwest Asia drag on for longer than the world anticipates it to, strangling the global economy and forcing prices upwards for the Gulf airlines, the Emirates era may soon turn over to the era of Turkish Airlines. Although, however detrimental this war may end up being for Emirates, the ultimate scenario of a complete downfall of the airline is highly unlikely, with the huge brand that Emirates has built up over the decades, along with hundreds of aircraft yet to be delivered to its fleet, and an entirely new airport planned to be built in Dubai. With those facts in mind, it can be difficult to imagine that the Emirates era of global domination has reached an end. Perhaps it's not an end, but simply a temporary disruption to the system. But in the wake of this conflict that has exposed modern aviation's biggest weakness, it wouldn't be too far-fetched of a claim to state that the Emirates era may be past its prime, that it's only downhill from here, especially if this conflict continues to disrupt operations, and that competition such as Turkish Airlines could soon steal the crown from the Gulf. All of these current issues leave us with the ultimate question. Will Emirates find a way to adapt to the problems it faces in the wake of this conflict? Has the Emirates era of global domination truly peaked out, or is this just a temporary situation, with the airline being simply too big to die out, along with all the other Gulf airlines? In the end, my guess is probably as good as yours when it comes to the airline industry's future in this region. But what's more likely than not in the short term is that the Gulf airlines will probably return to a normal operating capacity, for now. Only time will tell what happens to airlines like Emirates in the coming years and even decades, but all that we can really hope for is that this war finds a rapid conclusion, and that eventual peace will settle in the region. Do let me know your thoughts on this topic down in the comments, but with all that said, I hope you found this video interesting, and thanks for watching.